Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Raj, for agreeing to be on my little podcast. I know that you're super busy, in charge of your multinational empire. So thank you for taking the time to join me. I don't know if you'd like to maybe just tell us a little about yourself, and what it is that you do, and then we can dive into the big questions from there.
Sounds great, Megan. Firstly, thank you for having me on. Good to be here. So, as you mentioned, my name is Raj. I'm the founder of Goodman Lantern, but I'm also a father and a husband. I actually love being a family man, but I also really enjoy to be have another family, which is Goodman Lantern for me, which is my company. It's my third company. I started first after I finished my research at University of Sussex in AI, and my first company was a social media software company. Then I started an events company, which I took from zero to acquisition. I helped another company in Spain to grow from 7.5 million to 45 million revenue. But I think, like, if I summarize all my experiences, I'm a geek who loves marketing. Is a professional summary. Outside work, I'm somebody who's just found the new passion for outdoors exercising. So I just got really into paddle, which is like tennis and squash, all put into one offering. And I really just enjoy mixing my life and my work, optimizing for happiness. I'm a big proponent of that. And a big part of that for me is sort of allowing not only myself, but my teams as well to enjoy work life balance, a bit of flexibility. It's a really important part for me in my life. I think that's something which keeps me excited. And also, probably Megan, you know this because we have met before and you know what this been working together for some time now. But also, I really love to think about being inclusive and giving people the opportunity across the world. It's a big passion of mine, and it's stemmed from a lot of experiences, both good and bad.
Yeah. Now, sorry, I know that we've kind of already got the guidelines, and but you've said something that I want to just kind of dig into. You've said that you kind of like combining your work and kind of personal. You're the first person that I've ever heard say that, because most people, work-life balance, it's kind of work, and then you've got this divide, and then you've got the life stuff on the other side. So when you're saying you blur that line. Could you just explain that? Because with all the stuff on work-life balance, it's kind of like close the door at 5, go and have your life or whatever. So yeah, how do you combine and how do you keep that balance? That work doesn't kind of intrude too much on family time.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the one thing I learned over the years is that work is not different from life. In fact, what we are in real life, we bring a part of that to work, and what we are at work, bring a bit of that to life. The idea is to have a healthy balance between the two, and actually do that, we need to know our boundaries in our head. Importantly for me, it is about optimizing for happiness. So I don't sometimes it's work which makes me happy. Sometimes it is the family time or time with friends and family makes me happy. So for me, it's the optimization for happiness, and I mix them two together because sometimes at some points in my life, it's the work that makes me more happier than family and friends, and sometimes vice versa. But I maintain a sort of a balance because, for example, weekends I do not work. Come what may, I will not work. And I do a lot of volunteering. I volunteer for an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And even for them, I say, guys, weekdays, I'm happy to help in the mornings, but weekends I do not work. It's time for family, and that's my divide. And similarly, I like to go out for a date night with my wife once or twice every week, or at least once every fortnight, and that's set in stone. I will. That's what I put in my calendar, and that's going to stay there. And that's something which, come work, come no work, doesn't matter. That's there, and that's how I maintain my happiness as it were.
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested because you've used the words don't. And I was listening to a podcast the other day that says when we set these boundaries for ourselves, the language we use is really important because if you say to somebody, I can't, that begs the question, why not? And then it kind of gives them an in to, you know, you end up saying yes to something you didn't really want to say yes to. Whereas if you say I don't, that's kind of like a hard line. Like you don't cross this. Interesting use of terminology there.
Yeah, I think so. I think, as I mentioned, as you know, I spent a lot. I lived in the UK for almost 25 years. I now maintain homes in London and Bangkok. And during the pandemic, I told my wife, "Listen, if we had the opportunity to live in one city, what would it be?" And she said, "Well, let's put it down on a piece of paper and let's just show it at the same time." So we just kind of wrote it down, both flipped the card, and it was all what's at Bangkok. Okay, well, that's challenging. It's the other side of the world, really, for us. So how do we do
Yeah,
that? So we I built this kind of lifestyle to bring that element of the work-life balance, but also where we want to stay, to be healthy, to get vitamin D from the sun, then capsules, to have, you know, we like spicy food, like some spicy food from the streets of Bangkok. I mean, that for us makes us happy. And
mm,
life is so short that if we don't do it today, time passes by so quickly.
yeah,
So we said to ourselves, we will achieve that.
mm,
And I then worked for almost a year and a half every day to figure out how that's possible. And I said to myself, if I want to achieve this for myself, why can't it happen for the entire company? Why can't everybody in the company achieve that same flexibility? And so maybe we'll touch on this later on, but it's about
yeah,
flexibility,
yeah.
and it's for everybody. I think that's one thing that's missing in most companies is like, well, you can work if you want to, but you have to be based in this one city, one office space. And I'm like, no,
Mm.
flexibility brings happiness, and happiness brings more productivity.
Yeah. Now, let's dive into the company. So you've obviously built this is now your third business. It's really successful. You've built it using the services of both permanent and employees and freelancers. And your business model is really progressive. Especially, I mean, if you look at the corporate world, I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world, but in South Africa at least, it's kind of like you say, we have a centralized office, everyone has to come in. And yes, I believe that there is that kind of, face to face value. You build better relationships face to face. So I'm all for like a kind of a hybrid model, maybe, but you built this company and it's kind of the model of the future. It's completely remote. So, as with anything, pros and cons. So let's delve into the pros because there's a lot of them, and they're obviously working in a very successful manner for you. So, reduced overhead expenses, etc. Tell us about the pros of your business model.
Yeah, I was talking to the team, the management team the other day, and we're talking about, our business, and we realized that we have customers on 5 continents and team on 4. Imagine an organization today can achieve that. 40 years back, to achieve something similar kind of scale, you'll have to be a company with like 10,000 employees minimum, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, I think the future for me is agile. The future for me is the ability to be productive in the environment we feel works best for us. And I
Mm,
think if you look at what's happening outside our work and life, you look at technology, for example, there is a drive to make us more flexible and more independent. If you look at, for example, we have the Oculus by Meta or Facebook, then Apple says they're going to release their version of it. And they're talking a lot about, if you look at their ads and the message they're kind of giving, they're saying like, it allows you to work more flexibly, it allows you to be independent. I see not so sort of far from today, that we are going to come to a different world. So let me kind of portray the world we were living in.
Yeah.
Prior to the Industrial Revolution, there used to be an era when us human beings used to live on farms in small towns and villages, and we were working on our sort of times of work. For example, we had routine, but we chose to live in sort of our way of working, our work time balance, for example. Then came the Industrial Revolution. For example, in England, for example, there were these workshops being created. you know Horrible sort of scenario for people working in these workshops.
Mm,
Coal mines, they were hazardous, they were bad for people's health. They would come into work from X time in the morning till Y time in the evening. They were working these different hours, and that was complete disruption to their life. In
mm,
going forward, like, apart from all this, the machines they used to work with were not safe for them. Some of them,
mm,
they lost their limbs, for example. Like that was part of the working in these workshops. So, we work from home and in our own environment to working in industries and factories. And now, like with history, it repeats itself. So we come
mm,
again to the environment where we're going to be working again from home. We're going to
mm,
start working from our environment, which we feel productive and we feel is native to us. And with the help of technology, we will actually make our lives more productive, happier, more together with our families and friends. You don't have to go away to a different country to work because, well, the jobs are there. The job will come to us. And in all of this is an opportunity for people who do not want to go outside their homes because they can't or they don't want to, or unfortunately that's not what the options they have, for
mm.
them to rise up. And when
Mm.
they rise up, we'll have a whole new workforce which will be happier, healthier, and more productive.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, the pros of working with people who are home based, it gives you that flexibility and allows your company to adapt and all that kind of thing. So, there's a lot of pros. But now, I come from a corporate background, and when I started freelancing, I just assumed that I was doing it in the same way that all people did freelancing, and it came as quite a shock to me. A client was telling me that freelancers are relatively unreliable. They deliver poor standard of work. They in many cases just ghost their employers. They get assigned a project and decide they don't want it and disappear into the ether. So there's a lot of risk, obviously, working with freelancers. So let's discuss some of these. I don't know if you've experienced it and how you've managed to balance the risk of working in this context. Like how are you attracting like freelancers who are actually worth their salt, both from a content creation as well as a professional perspective, I suppose. And balancing, like I say, the risk and the reward of this business model.
Great question there, Megan. I think for me, it comes down to what is in for the freelancers or the remote workers or the flexible team members. What is the opportunity for them, and what is the opportunity for the employer? um, for the freelancers, I think if the opportunity is a one-off, then it's not that exciting in my opinion. For me, the opportunity really is to build a recurring opportunity for team members, whether flexible or permanent, and to really upskill them. And as of, like, for example, this year, the beginning of this year, we have announced that we'll be doing a lot of training, especially on AI related stuff to make our teams more productive. Stuff which will take a lot of time for you know flexible workers to kind of embark on. So
Mm,
building videos, building courses, offering sort of money to kind of buy courses, for example. So that is something which we provide to our team members. So effectively, what we're doing really is to allow them to upskill themselves and be productive across not only the roles they're taking at with Goodman Lantern, but beyond that as well. And
Mm.
that's our promise to our flexible team members. The same applies to permanent team members as well. I think the idea really is for me is to add value at all times. If we don't add value, if we don't invest in them, then why will they invest in us? Why will they
Yeah.
care about us? Um, so, you know, I think the focus now is to do more virtual and in-person meetups, for example, to allow them the opportunity, the water cooler moments we have in at corporate life in the virtual environment. It's not easy. It's really hard. Um, Once we achieve that fully, I think there's an opportunity to really add a lot of value, even if there's no like if they don't have some task for somebody a particular day, the value you create for them to upskill them it be so much that they want to stay longer. Um, and I don't think in my life I see like I almost dislike short termism or short term thinking. I think
Yeah.
the real opportunity in our life is to think long term, is to
Mm.
really think about what can we add value together. Because Rome wasn't built overnight. If you have big ambitions and big dreams, whether it is to from a monetary perspective or to build a community, it takes a long time. So
Mm.
I do not believe in a short-term mindset. I always often think about when I recruit somebody to think about the long term, hopefully 5, 10, 20 years. And then, together we can grow together and be someone substantial, both in
Mm.
our minds, our souls, and hopefully the bank balance as well.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of that like it's the sum is greater than the sum of its parts. What's that saying? Uh, the result is greater than the sum of its parts. So yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Let's discuss content marketing in general because this is obviously your area of expertise now in terms of Goodman Lantern. So, do you want to just dive into what it is? I think that it's fairly self-explanatory, but in my in my experience, very self-explanatory things tend to elude the layman. So let's dive into what it is, why businesses need it, and what constitutes good content. So yeah, dazzle
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. Sure, I'll try to. So, firstly, just to kind of mention, the focus of Goodman Lantern is around the high tech content. So, content for high tech companies. That's the focus we have. And it's partially because did a lot of work in high tech companies, so telecom, fintech. We do a lot of like defense work now. We do a work for companies in manufacturing and IoTs, for example. So having a niche is super important because we can't do everything in this world. I love to do everything, but we can't do everything. So it's good to have a focus. Uh,
Yeah.
and if you look at our industry, our market, our prime market is B2B. And in B2B, the most asked or most requested offering tends to be white papers. So white paper is like a ebook style, usually 10 to 15 pages long, with a short on the sort of medium to short end, and there's like 50 to 100 pages long on the long end, where
Mm,
we help companies understand a particular topic is written by a company. So we write it for the company as a white label. So we don't have our name there. There's a customer's name there. And we really help them to explain a topic so that it's understood by anybody. When I say
mm,
anybody, I mean it doesn't have to be understood by the technical person who wrote the white paper or wrote the concept or is for them. It's also for
mm,
people who are not part of the technical team, like the chief financial officer, or maybe the assistant who was going to help find the supplier for them. So
yeah.
we really like to make sure it's exactly accessible to anybody in the industry and the market. Why is that important? Well, content written for experts by experts is great. But if content written by experts can be made so simple that can be consumed by anybody, the opportunity grows significantly.
Mm,
Because why is that important again? So most companies in B2B write white papers to eventually sell more of their product or their service, right? That's the ambition for them. But
yep.
unfortunately, for them to do that, they need to explain what they do. And if you look at what we call a sales funnel, I'm going to explain that a little bit just so just the audience understand, is
Yep.
in a sales funnel, you have the top, the middle, the bottom. The top is where you put in information generically about the industry or the group of services to educate people about it. It tends to be broad. It might have people who will not buy from you, but you just sort of educate people. You dive deeper and then you educate them about your product and your service. So some people who came to the funnel, who heard about you through your website or through your white paper might drop off. But the ones who are keen to learn about you and your offering will stay there. And then you have bottom of the funnel, which is the last part of the funnel, where you get them to sign up to your offering. It could
Mm,
be a paid trial, could be a trial, could be a full service offering. The ambition of all of this is to basically get more customers through your doors. Most content marketing companies are helping clients with all three of them. Is
mm,
to educate people on the industry, then on what you're offering, and then conversion. And white papers do a great job on top of the funnel, educating people on your industries and then educating the people about your offering as well. But we
mm,
keep it generic initially to kind of really educate people on the oral offering so they learn about it. The more you teach people, the more you learn, get people to learn stuff from you, the more they think about you as a leader in this service space. It's just a
mm.
gift of learning that you're giving them. And they, in return, look up to you as a teacher, and then they offer or they provide you the opportunity to work for them, and that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. So content marketing is sort of a gift of learning which we offer to our customers.
Okay, fantastic. I think what's quite nice, in my opinion, about content as well is that it's easy to share, because if it's valuable and you're creating value for the market that, or the audience that you're creating it for, they will tend to share that content, whether it be a white paper or a video or a blog post or whatever the content is. It's easy to share. No one's necessarily going to share like a hard sell advert that they saw online, whereas they will be more inclined to share something that they've actually found value in.
Yeah, and this is also the viral nature of content, right? Content is viral by nature. It allows us to be really productive in maximizing our time and an opportunity. Most of the times, what happens is that content which is shared one time, which someone found valuable, will then share with other people in the industries or in their with the team or their family or friends, and that helps to enhance the value, and so it can exponentially become more shareable, as you mentioned, Megan. But also, it can also be a great tool which means the person can give to my friends and my family to improve their knowledge as well.
Yeah,
And so that's the two benefits of it. The third part of it also is that content in itself is a great way to get visibility. So if you is a purpose you have, for example, whether it's from the point of view of SEO, so you want to like get yourself ranked better on search engines, for example, you can get more visible through content, but also through thought leadership, you can showcase your ability as a person or as a company.
yeah, yeah. Now, let's chat about AI and content marketing, because obviously ChatGPT came in November last year. It was released, and so that has kind of revolutionized. And as a small business, I've found that I've lost a lot of small clients because they don't now need to pay me to create content. They can ask ChatGPT. But I've found that really large scale clients are still opting for the that, if you can say, human element, and we'll maybe circle back to that human element shortly. But obviously ChatGPT not the only thing available. I mean, there's a slew of other AIs available to generate content, everything from images to voice to podcasts to like literally anything you want to create. How is that going to affect kind of traditional content best practices? And I think the example that I've got kind of top of mind at the moment is SEO, because if you've got the ChatGPT plugin, you no longer need to find an answer to your question by going into various different people's blogs. So, because you've got that little box on the side that kind of gives you a breakdown and answers your question in the box. I mean, you can actually go straight into ChatGPT and ask the question, and it'll pump out an answer as well. So, how is that going to affect something like SEO, where traditionally people have created blogs to educate and answer specific questions to increase traffic to their websites? How is the advent of AI in that capacity changing the landscape?
Yeah, great question there, Megan. And because of my background in research and AI, I think probably I have a different thought on all of this and way I look at AI and content. I spent a lot of time thinking about AI and content, obviously, and I've
Yeah,
been playing with ChatGPT since March of last year. So I've probably spent a lot of time looking at the progress. And I mean, what's interesting is that at some point, ChatGPT was producing pretty horrible results, to be honest with you. And suddenly it just became so good by
yeah,
November of last year, November 2022, that was good enough for us to then use it for business.
mm,
Um, so that's the way the AI progressing, like it just is a massive upgrades and like it just becomes much, much better. Um,
mm,
I think here's the interesting analogy in my head. Yeah, I'm going to go back to that industrial revolution time again.
mm,
There used to be a time when we used our hands to knit stuff, to make garments, to actually produce, for example, some really impressive artifacts, for example. In comes machines. We can start to produce looms. You start to produce lots of like garments, artifacts through machines. Factories come to place, make it all super fast. But if you look at it today, if you look at some of the leading artifacts or bags or like things, they're still handmade.
yeah,
I don't know of any luxury bag which says that's all factory made or machine made. They always say
mm,
it's handmade. um, and the reality is, and this is going to go back to one of my initial jobs after I finished university was at a Parker pen factory as quality assurance engineer. My job really was pick up a pen, look through it very carefully. If there any bumps and marks, put in a different tray. And if it was all fine, then I put in a different tray. QA, it was like a bizarre job, but equally, just enticing to learn about it, right? It was just like a part-time job which I had for a few days. But
yeah,
it taught me that even the best of machines can't actually understand and tell you exactly the quality of a product or offering. That it
mm,
needs human intervention always to get that quality up. Um, ChatGPT, other large language models like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, and there's so many others out there. And then, as you mentioned, there's some for voice, there's some for image generation. All have their pros and cons. But when it comes to perfection, and as human beings, we are a picky bunch of people. We like to kind of get the right offering out there. You want to make sure the offering is good enough. So there is a important role for human intervention uh, for high quality offering. And with
mm,
SEO, if you look at the way SEO is built, it's built around normal human mindset, which is high quality offering is on the top, which is low value, low quality offering is at the bottom. So
mm,
for high quality offering, we still will require human intervention in a lot of it. I did some research recently, and I'll share some data with you later. But like something like white paper, opinion pieces still require 60% plus human intervention. Probably even more at the moment. Might reduce 60% at a later date. So
mm,
high quality content still requires human intervention. Yes, The ranking at the moment on Google, etc., Google, Bing, etc., is favoring AI generation. But there'll come a time when there'll be an update on Google algorithm, and it will then change back to what was valued the most, which is highly well thought human created content. Yes, there's an opportunity to help the research part using AI. Remember, AI is a tool for intelligence. It's not for database. It's not to create good content. It's to help with intelligence.
Mm,
So if you use it in that way, if you use it for research, for example, that's awesome. But to create
mm.
the entire content end to end, there'll come a time it will be penalized heavily, and that's when people then fall back to what works best, which is a combination of the two.
Yeah. I think AI is kind of seen as the shiny new toy at the moment, and everyone's kind of playing with the new toy, and they will eventually um, realize the limitations. But yeah, I suppose, like you say, it's going to follow that kind of roller coaster ups and down period before we get there. So that we have to understand what the stuff can do. And I mean, I use ChatGPT fairly regularly, and it's great to write something in a different way. But I'm actually writing a book at the moment based on some of the stuff that I've discussed with guests in my podcast. And so I was doing a bit of an experiment over the weekend. I'd written a paragraph. I chucked it into ChatGPT. I said, please analyze this, tell me what the style and the tone of it is. And uh, then I inserted a piece of transcript, and I said, please rewrite this transcript in the same style. And what it gave me was the biggest load of crap. Like, so there is still, it's not like you can just say create a 1,500 word white paper. At least to me, you do still definitely need that human element. And I think that people that are relying 100% on AI, it's kind of like to kind of give a metaphor or an analogy, it's kind of like people that expect a baby monitor to raise their child. I mean, that's not what it's designed for. It's there to help you, but it's not there to replace you.
Completely agree. In fact, an experiment I did recently was I took a brief from a client, and our writers and editors wrote that content, and then we asked ChatGPT to write its version. We put both the versions back into ChatGPT and asked it to score out of 100. It gave the human written content a much higher rank than its
Mm,
own written content. And it's not only once that's happened. I've done it 3 4 times now. I've asked other people to do it. Similar effects. The thing now is that's really hard to kind of fool or to game the system, because AI has got all that data, previous data, uh, with it in his database, and so
mm,
it knows what's original, what's like remixed, what's human, what's a biased human content piece, what is artificial intelligence created content. Sometimes it can't distinguish, but usually it can.
mm,
But either way, it gives a higher rank to something which is well written and well conceived than something which is done by AI. And that's something because at the end of the day, if you think about the AI's bias, the AI is biased to learn more. There's
mm.
no point for AI to learn the stuff it produces itself. So it will always
Yeah,
give a better weightage to the human content than something which is done by another AI, for example.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and there are quite a lot of tools now to check whether content is written by an AI. I mean, OpenAI has a system that you can actually pop it in and check whether ChatGPT actually wrote that content. And I think savvy marketers and savvy customers, excuse me, um, uh, let me put it this way. If you ask ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn post, for example, I've found that there's a very templated way that it creates that content. And it's going to start becoming more noticeable if you have got content in that particular template. So, yeah, I mean, we've got all these things to check at the moment whether it's been written, but because write me a LinkedIn post and it's in that template, humans are going to be able to start noticing that without the need to check it through an AI detector. You're going to be your own AI detector. Um, so yeah, and I suppose that brings it back round to just good content. The internet is flooded with mediocre and horrendous content already, and this is kind of just going to add to that, I suppose. But over time, people are going to be able to pick out the good content from the mediocre.
Yeah, I think so. I think also at the end of the day, I mean, you're a content creator yourself, Megan. You understand that it's about the emotional connection we make with human beings. It's that emotional
Mm,
connection we make with the reader and the audience, and it's hard to actually achieve that perfectly with AI. It can mimic some of that effect, but it can't master it. Having a
mm,
bias towards a particular way of thinking, having a original thought process, still requires human intervention, and that's going to be the case for many years to come. Also, like you're talking about, sort of the spotting of AI content, not only writing content, but if you look at Twitter, some of the artists can make out which images are created by Mid-Journey and what is original and is not made by Mid-Journey. So you can see there's actually people can realize that, and if we can realize that as human beings, you know, people spend billions on their technology innovation, like Google, Facebook can do that as well. And there are tools like, as you mentioned, OpenAI has its own tool. There's a tool called GPT-0, which can identify any AI content, human content, for example. Yes, it's not foolproof yet, but it's
mm,
getting there. And at the end of the day, that connection, that originality, the storytelling element, which is the most important part of content, cannot be replaced by remixing content from previous times into using an AI tool. AI is not built for that. AI is built for intelligence. You can take different pieces of content and it'll help you summarize it, to remix it, to find intelligence within it, identify patterns in it. For example, it's not designed really to just write content for you. Yes, some of the elements can be used for that, but that's not the purpose of it. In fact, even
yeah.
OpenAI doesn't want you to do that. They doesn't want to be flooding the entire internet with like AI generated content.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of brings us back to what Goodman Lantern does is content by humans for humans. So obviously AI has entered the picture and a lot of companies are now trying to leverage it, etc., because it's more cost effective. I mean, it's if you look at the speed at which AI generates content, it can write 1,500 words in like 5 seconds. But I suppose it's very much like anything, you get what you pay for. So, have you noticed in your client base a drop off in demand because of AI tools, or has your kind of client base, that kind of B2B tech writing, they still understand the value of that human input in the content?
I would say because we target the very best in the market, the ones who understand this have not changed their mindset. They are still steady with their thought on highly well thought of human created content, and that
Mm,
stays steady. The ones which have dropped off are the ones who don't care, for example, and they're very few, I would say, handful of that. Most of them
mm,
have stayed because they understand that this is a phenomena. Some of these people have been using AI for 4 years, 5 years in their own company, have created tools for themselves using AI and large language models. For them, it doesn't really matter that these tools have come out today. They know at some point there will be a change in the algorithms, but what stays steady is the perception of the content. It has to be the
mm,
best. They can't produce
yeah.
mediocre content because that will not help them in the long run. So they're very
Yeah.
open to continuing to work with humans. Yes, they understand that there's an element of AI in the research process in making life a little easier, as you mentioned earlier, because it
Mm,
can create content very quickly. that can be used for research, for example. But the majority of the creation of content and the storyboarding, for example, the direction you want to take, that's still done by human beings. And that's why
Yeah.
the slogan of a company is content by humans for humans, because that is going to stay steady. Content is not a new game in town. It's been around
Mm,
for centuries. Famously,
mm,
Napoleon used to write content for his war campaigns. He used to write press releases for his war campaigns and send to gazettes. And now the form is different. Maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's LinkedIn posts, but still, it's about that human to human connection, and that's never going to change.
yeah. Now, obviously, to keep up with market demands and trends, etc., or even kind of become a leader in the industry, it goes without saying that Goodman Lantern would integrate AI into its processes. How are you kind of staying true to that human by humans, especially seeing as like you've got freelancers writing content for the company because you can't control what these people are doing, so how are you bringing it into I know that you popped out recently a bit of a policy in terms of how writers can implement AI in their own processes. How are you keeping up with that market trend and letting AI inform your company to stay relevant while keeping that human touch?
Yeah. So AI is a great tool. It's going to help and impact every industry in the market today, whether it's content or not content, for example. Where I think the most impact is going to be is for analysis, for research, for intelligence. And there's a lot of work which goes into analyzing the background of a company, their story, their values, the competitors. And for that sort of stuff, AI is great.
Mm,
We, for example, working with teams, make sure that we have a policy of checking every piece of content. We use internally tools to check that the content is produced by human beings,
mm,
because in the long run, that make a big impact. It
mm.
will make a big impact both for thought leadership as well as for visibility through search engines. That's a
Yeah.
belief, and we believe that's going to happen very soon. For the time being, though, there are a lot of cowboys using a lot of AI, and that's
Mm,
fair. We only learn through experimenting, right? So let's
mm,
use that. But in the company, we are building tools to help with research, to kind of create quick initial steps to reduce the time for the initial research elements in the company. So with that, what I mean by that is to collect data, to analyze data, to get the material which we have internally on customers, provided by customers and competitors, and to put them all together, mash them all up together, and then analyze using AI, and then
mm.
picking out trends and opportunities from there, and using those trends and opportunities then to create human created content. That's the
Yeah.
way we believe we're going to go forward in the AI journey. How does that impact our business? Well, first thing is that it actually reduces time to research. It makes our team more efficient by focusing on the most important parts, which is to create great content and having
Mm,
that data available to them readily. Also to analyze, sometimes we have long calls internally as teams, as well as with customers, to summarize them all together. That helps
mm,
us to kind of take out elements which are not adding value to the end client's content, and really focusing on the bits which are going to add more value. So making our
mm,
teams more efficient. One thing which we are doing now is to training our teams. So we are launching these new training programs. As of this month, we're launching new training programs to kind of educate teams on how to use tools like ChatGPT better. We're using available and proprietary APIs or programming tools to build our own tools as well. So there's
mhm,
an, a plethora of different opportunities which we are currently embarking on as a company to make us
mm.
more competitive and to help reduce times where things doesn't add value, and to really focus on the high value elements.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, we have been going, so I'm going to run into the quickfire round to end off because, like I say, I know that you're super busy, so I don't want to keep you over time. So I changed the questions slightly. Don't panic. The first question is not really a question. It's more of a challenge, I suppose. Tell me something I don't know about content marketing.
Wow. Oh, that's a really big challenge. Um, hmm, Let me think. Okay, well, I'm going to say something about ChatGPT because I think that's something that's very relevant right now. I think
Yeah.
what I discovered recently was that the best way to use ChatGPT for content, especially, is to not create the content in a paragraph format, but to ask to make a tabular format of content delivery. You can actually say, for example, summarize this information as a table, and then describe the columns you would like to have. That for me is a better way to use ChatGPT to get answers and to just ask it to do a free form, freestyle content creation for us. I've seen that whenever I ask me tables for me, it's been far better, far more efficient, and more accurate every time.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a great tip. If I can give you a tip, if you're using ChatGPT to write social media posts, don't ask it to write a social media post. Ask it to write a blurb about a specific topic. Because then it will not default to those weird templates that it seems. You get more kind of organic sounding that you can take, and then you can obviously work on the back end. So there, we've exchanged Chat GPT tips.
Excellent. Thank you.
um, Question two: is there a specific routine or thing that you do that you believe contributes to your success as a business?
One thing I do is I have post-it notes in front of me for my goals for the next 10 years. See them every morning. Every morning I look at them and say, "This is my aim for me and my family and my company." And that aligns me a bit better. So so that's one thing. Number two I do is I I believe in a routine weekly check-in with the family. So I have one with my wife, with key team members weekly to just align ourselves. And I almost have a format of how I do these things. So I have a format I follow, and it's a bit weird to do that with with your wife, for example. It's not a team
Yeah,
member, but I think I believe that a routine, a process followed in life leads and goes a much longer way. So I have over the years found a few formats. I run a meeting, how I invite myself to an event, a calendar invitation, for example, how I run meetings, for instance. And I believe that those are great ways to really align a team, my family, and myself.
that's amazing. I think that it's important to have some sort of structure when you're doing that because if I've been to many a meeting, if anyone who's worked in the corporate world knows, you go to a meeting and nothing constructive comes out of the meeting because there was no proper agenda, there were no proper talking points. And so, yeah, I'm very much a believer in structure in that way as well. So that's awesome. The post-it note thing, quite a few people do that. It's been quite interesting. What do you do when you're not working on your business?
Well, I started playing a lot of paddle tennis. Um, so like that's like my new thing. Paddle tennis is the fastest growing sport in the world, apparently. It's basically tennis meets squash, and I've been training to like become better at it. In the past, I used to cycle a lot. In London, I never took a train, underground, um, taxi, almost 2 years because I just cycle everywhere. I just have portable cycle everywhere. So that's been my passion. Also like to watch movies in the cinema sometimes. I can't sit in front of a television and watch it because I don't have the patience. I'm a bit of a headless chicken. Like move around quite a bit. So the
Yeah.
cinema is like I paid for it. I have to go there. And I have to sit down. So I kind of sit down, watch the movie, and then I exit basically.
Oh wow.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Um, Apart from that, I would say like traveling. I really enjoy traveling. So if I get a chance, I kind of go away with the wife and the kid. So that's kind of nice.
Awesome. Just on the movie thing, I find I can't watch movies on TV, but I can binge watch. Like, it's there's that meme that went around a while ago that said, "Would you like to watch this 3 hour movie?" And it's like, no, I don't have the time or the patience. And it's what about if we broke this 3 hour movie into 3 episodes of an hour each? You're like, son of a bitch, I'm in. Like, yeah, so movies, I don't know how anyone sits through a movie, but somehow binge watching, 40 hours of 1 hour shows, that's not a problem.
Completely agree with you.
If all the books in the world suddenly spontaneously combusted except for one, what would it be and why?
This is a difficult question because I think there's so many good books out there, which I would say have impacted uh, impacted my life. But I would say the one book which has been my favorite has been How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That book for me has been the one book which has changed my life completely. Um, I think many years back, I look back at myself and I think what I could have achieved as a person, I couldn't have imagined that I could reach here. And I think, a big part of it is that I was taught over the years to be focused on learning, have a learner's mindset. So I'm just constantly like I spend 4 hours every day learning about different things through podcasts, through reading, through like going to talks, listening to a lot of talks. So I'm constantly like a sponge, just picking up stuff all the time, whether it's about business, about AI, about content, about technology, whatever it might be. I'm just keen to learn these skills because I think it's so important. So, but this book has taught me how to like influence people, and I think I don't influence people for my purpose, but it's for a combined a combined purpose which is good for humanity or for a great purpose, a great upside for everybody. I
Mm,
think that's what kind of makes me feel, because I think like companies, for example, the main mission of a company is to make profit for the shareholders. But
yeah.
when the company is focusing on a greater good, like for example, a big part of Goodman Lantern is to empower women
Mm,
in technology and marketing. That want to go back to work every day, wake up in the morning and work harder for the company. And I
mm.
think all that comes from learning from books. So I hope that all books don't disappear. We still have books to read, because that'd be a very dull day and a very
Yeah,
annoying
100%.
time to survive as
Yeah.
human life, as human beings.
Dale Carnegie, I mean, that is, I mean, that book's been around since, like, I suppose, the dawn of time. But it just goes to show that that is essentially a piece of content marketing. And it stood the test of time. It's still as relevant today as it was when it was first written. And that, I think, is the secret behind good content. The relevancy and making sure that it's around for a long time. It's still providing value.
I do apologize. A lot of books which have like made it through time. Like there's another book by a book by called The Richest Man in Babylon. Have you if you heard of this book before?
I've heard
It
of it,
talks about
yes.
it's a business book. Basically, it talks about simple concepts about this one person in Babylon, which is now in modern day Iraq, and it talks
Mm,
about how to make a lot of cash, um, but it's in an ethical way. And that book has been like it talks about a civilization which is long gone, but still we talk about it because the
mm,
concepts of building a business, uh, building a life for us, our family, our company is still the same. And that's what
mm,
we're talking about content, as you were talking about earlier. Content has also been around for centuries. It's a
mm,
different form now. And so is like best practices to like run a company, interact with team members. with family, with friends. I think these are concepts which are going to stand the test of time. It's just
Mm,
that there are different forms now. Maybe back in the day, it was all verbal. Now it's through, I don't know, WhatsApp or a different form, maybe Insta chat, for example. But they still apply. I agree.
yeah, yeah. Final question, and I suppose because you've got three businesses, or you started three businesses, maybe you can give us the one piece of advice you wish you'd received when you'd started your business, and maybe, like I say, because you've got three businesses that you've started, there's one kind of overarching piece of advice that you wish you'd received, or lesson that's come out of the process that you followed.
Yeah, I think that there are two bits. One is being open to learn. I think I touched on this earlier, but I think one of the things which I did not do as much earlier on was to be open to be able to consume and learn. At some point, I was very close to learning new information. I think that didn't help me in my big long journey. Um, and I think most people should, like, at least I should have learned that early on. I wish I was open to always learning in that mindset. Number two is short term. Constantly like thinking about um, not what's going to happen today or tomorrow, but thinking about what's going to happen 10 years from now. That's what makes great individuals, great businesses, great opportunities for everybody involved. And again, didn't think of that. It was more, very much about how can I benefit from this opportunity? What I'm going to get today out of this. And I think that kind of blinded me a little bit. I wish I
Yeah.
was a bit more long sighted.
I think that it's difficult though, because especially when you're starting out, you are worried about uh, cash flow and where your next job is coming from, etc. So you may have the long term goal, but you still need to focus on the short term. But it's just finding that balance.
I think so. I think so. But again, like disruption takes so much effort, right? And if you are thinking short and small, it's not worth the effort. The effort required to to make a disruption massive or to make small, they're very similar in nature. But if you start thinking big, you can have bigger teams, more delegation, more elevation, more automation, more deletion. And I think that's where magic happens. The moment we start thinking about, I will do this, I will do this, this is my company, this was for me, it becomes very small and very caged. And I think for big things to happen, to send, to go to Mars or to build the next Tesla or to like build the next AI, it requires big thinking and it requires something which is long term, not today, not for me, not just how to make more money for myself.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Fantastic, Raj. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed chatting to you and getting to know you a little bit better as well. And I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast will take a lot of value from it as well. Where can people find you? Obviously, you're on LinkedIn. You've got the website. Do you want to give us all those links?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, so like LinkedIn is definitely one of the biggest one. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. But then there's also Twitter as well. So Twitter, I'm Raj Anand. On LinkedIn, also I'm Raj Anand. So we just look at Raj Goodman Anand on LinkedIn, or if you just do a quick Google search, hopefully you'll find me. Hopefully, I'm number one link. If I'm not, so definitely a problem.
Then we'll have to work on your content and your SEO.
That's it. I hope it's all sorted out. So yeah, if you do just Google Raj Goodman Anand, you'll find the LinkedIn, the Twitter, and the website as well as first three links are from.
Awesome. And then Goodman Lantern, you're obviously always open to approaches by people who want to use the company to create their content. That's goodmanlantern.com, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So goodmanlantern.com. Again, big on LinkedIn and website is goodmanlantern.com. But again, if you look for Raj Goodman Anand or look for Goodman Lantern on Google, it'll be the first link.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Raj. I've really enjoyed this, and yeah, we should probably do it again at some stage in the future to have a check in to see how things are going.
Absolutely, Megan. Thank you much for the opportunity once again. And yeah, really good to have a chat. And let's do it again for sure.
Definitely.